With Tyreek Hill now being the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history, that means a lot of things for two teams. What are those things? And what is the most impactful offseason move we've seen to date? All that and more on this episode of Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Troll, I forgot that part. Alex Clancy, Tyler Rowland, Locked On NFL Thursday. Follow him at TikTok Titans and check him out every day for all your Tennessee Titans news, Monday through Friday. Check me out at Clancy's Corner and for all your Arizona Cardinals news, Monday through Friday. Thanks for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. We got a lot of juice to talk about here. And listen, the Tyreek Hill trade from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, cool. That's the what. We're going to expound upon the why and what's next. Also, there have been a lot of moves this offseason, whether it be via trade or free agency around the NFL. The NFL just looked at the NBA free agency and said, okay, you had fun. Now we're taking over something else on top of what we already have with the monopoly that is the NFL. Okay,
right.
Tyler's going to run down what the trade was exactly. Tyreek Hill is now the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. The Chiefs got a lot of picks, and what they're going to do with them from now into the future, we're going to discuss in the second segment. First, centralized around Miami. They have arguably a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL. He's not a traditional outside wide receiver. He's not a traditional slot receiver, which is what he should be for his stature. But what we do know is he and Jalen Waddle are the 2 fastest wide receivers in the NFL on one team. And now it's going to be up to Tua Tagovailoa to really spread this offense out because, oh boy, Alberto, that dude has got some weapons now.
Yeah, he absolutely does. So the official terms of the trade, Tyreek Hill going to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks. The 2022 first-round pick of the Dolphins, that's number 29. A second-round pick, which will be number 50. A fourth-round pick in this year's draft. On top of that, they will be sending a 4th and a 6th-round pick from 2023. Along with all of those picks, they are giving Tyreek Hill a 4-year, $120 million extension, including $72.2 million guaranteed. So Miami makes a monster investment, not only with picks, but also with money. Just a huge move from the Dolphins, who are truly trying to surround Tua with as much weaponry as possible. This comes after last night. They signed Teron Armstead to be their left tackle. They've added Connor Williams to play guard as well. They made some other additions at running back and on the O-line. I mean, the Dolphins have gone all out this offseason to make this team better. And I guess, Alex, just from your perspective, how good does this make Miami now? And do you have any concerns?
The first thing that I thought of was, oh man, what if they drafted Justin Herbert? Like, that's the first thing I thought. That's what everybody thought. You know what I mean? Because it would have been the same. They're both still on their rookie scale contracts.
Right.
So it would have been it would have been 100% feasible and doable to do this. And you look at what Justin Herbert could have done with this offense. Now, Tua is the biggest question mark, not only because of his play on the field, but because of his injury history, obviously. He had the hip in his last year in Alabama. He's had injury concerns. He's somewhat frail, more than what we've seen from the quarterback position for high impact makers in history. That's not to say this won't work. Now he's got an offensive line that's not Swiss cheese. And what we saw from Miami a handful of years ago, mostly on the defense with Byron Jones and Kyle Van Noy, they will throw some money around to bring in free agents. And this is just tipping the scale for the AFC East and AFC West. That's what excites me a little bit, because we haven't seen more of a transformation from 2 AFC divisions, I know there's only 4, than the AFC East after Tom Brady left, and the AFC West now with the cavalcade of moves we've seen this offseason that now has kind of softened the Chiefs' window, which blows my mind. And we'll talk about the Chiefs in the second segment. But for the Dolphins specifically, this makes them a player, okay? They've got one of the best corners in the league. They've got a good safety duo. Who knows what they're going to do in the draft? They still have 2 first-round picks in 2023. They've got Chase Edmonds now. They have 38 other running backs. They have one of the better pass-catching tight ends. They have – this is an all-star roster. And it really comes down to what Tua Tagovailoa can do with it.
Yeah, well, also, not only Tua, but what excites me the most is Mike McDaniel. I mean, Mike McDaniel in San Francisco was a king of yards after catch. And listen, I have my own concerns about Tua. He's not a great deep ball thrower. He doesn't have elite arm strength. But if you got a guy like that, why don't you get him some of the best yak weapons in the NFL in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and have him throw those short passes and let those guys take it 70 yards to the house like we know we're capable of. Like I said, in San Francisco, Mike McDaniel was incredibly creative with his offensive packages and getting the guys the ball that should be getting the ball. He mentioned it in his press conference that he's addicted to getting the ball to guys who should have the ball in their hands and will create in space. So you got a good offensive mind. You got great offensive weapons. The only question here is, and it's finally time to do this, can Tua get it done? And I just want to throw this in as a guy who covers the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has expressed some displeasure with the organization. If Kyler Murray were to move on at any point in time or be the next disgruntled quarterback to be traded, boy, Miami with those 2 2023 first-round picks next offseason, if Tua blows it, man, I could see the Dolphins making that move for Kyler Murray and really becoming a juggernaut. Right now, how would you rank the top 3 teams in the AFC East? The Bills, probably at number 1. Where would you go from there?
I don't think it's changed because I don't trust
like the
Tua.
Patriots over the Dolphins.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at too. This is all great. I like the roster they're building. I like the coach, but I just don't believe in Tua as a top tier starter in the NFL. He's an Andy Dalton type guy at best, and that makes me a little bit worried for Miami, even if they add all of these great weapons.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out. It's so cool. It's so, this storyline, cool. The trade's fine. Okay, this stuff is becoming commonplace. The DeAndre Hopkins trade for a second and a fourth kind of looks silly now. And the Texans $20 million of David Johnson's contract. We're really going to see how important the quarterback is because Tyreek Hill with the Dolphins and Devontae Adams, even though he's going to his college quarterback in Vegas, they ate Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. So we're really going to see not only how good these receivers are, but how important an elite quarterback is to the production of a wide receiver. Now, what we saw with Jalen Waddle last year, he was a fantasy darling towards the second half of the season. He had Jarvis Landry-like numbers in 2021, like on a 2021 scale, where it wasn't 9 catches for 46 yards. It was 12 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. If you're going to see that kind of production from Tyreek Hill also just on the second level, and Devontae Parker on the outside, and Cedric Wilson, who's a burner, and Mike Gesicki up the gut, and all those running backs, and that offensive line that's improved, what the hell are we doing here? It truly looks like this team could be built for special things. And I would try and trade Tua immediately. If you have, I don't know if they thought they could pull this off. What we saw from Adam Schefter was the Jets offered a far lighter package.
Yeah.
And for Tua, I don't know where the money would be. I'm not a capologist. I don't cover the Dolphins. Check out Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino. They do a fantastic job over there. Or Kyle Krabs, sorry. Joe Marino's draft dudes. I would 100% look around the NFL and say, you know what? If the window is 3 years to win, because that's what it looks like nowadays. Patriots' years are gone. Look at what happens to the Packers. You win a bunch of games in a bad division, but it doesn't lead to much. What can they do to improve the quarterback position? That's not out of the realm now, right? Because we're in silly season now. They traded for Tyreek Hill.
I just think with everything that's happened, they don't really have any options this year. Everyone who's moved has moved. There isn't a lot of room for improvement right now. I just ride Tua out and see how he does with this good roster around him. And then next year, you have the ammunition to make a move if you need to. But with that being said, obviously, there are 2 sides of this story.
Yeah.
There is the Miami Dolphins side. There is the Kansas City side. So we'll dive into the Kansas City, feelings, the Kansas City moves that need to happen from here after Alex tells you about our good friends over at betonline.net.
So the thing is, March Madness returns today. Like, thank you, NFL, for being my pacifier between meals as a baby of
Right.
NCAA tournament action. We forget how crazy this past weekend was jumping into the Sweet 16. Remember this. Remember this because we're in week 8 of the NFL season and the NCAA tournament where it's going to be gone before you know it. Cherish this. BetOnline.net is going to be able to help you do that. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net's #1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball, man. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
NFL fans, it is a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Big time NFL news. Tyreek Hill traded to the Miami Dolphins for a cavalcade of draft picks, getting a new extension. We just talked about the Miami Dolphins kind of side of things and the thought process there, but now we got to flip that over to the team that got all those draft picks and didn't pay all that money, the Kansas City Chiefs. Before we get into it, got to thank you guys for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen every day. Make sure that you check out the Locked On NFL podcast on YouTube. Subscribe over there. Smash that notification bell. Throw a thumbs up on the video if you're watching on YouTube right now. But we talked about the Dolphins. Now, looking at Kansas City. I got to say, we can get into the details. We'll talk about what they can do next. But I think, like you mentioned in the first segment, this really puts a damper on what we considered Kansas City's window. And this is another thing that I wanted to say while you were talking about Tua and the Dolphins roster and what they could do. One of my favorite parts about sports is if you have a theory, you have an argument, you have a debate, you have whatever, two sides of a coin, you get your answer. We're going to watch the games. We're going to see it play out, and we are going to get our answer. There's been a little bit of a chicken and egg conversation with the Chiefs. Is it Patrick Mahomes making, a late round wide receiver and Travis Kelce look good? Or is it Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce making Patrick Mahomes look all world, most talented quarterback ever, when in reality, he was just pretty good? What is it? Is it the chicken or is it the egg? Well, Travis Kelce is going to be 33 years old. Last year, we saw people, I hate when people say they figured him out. I don't know if that's real, but we saw people play defense better against the Chiefs offense than we've seen in quite some time. So you have an aging Travis Kelce who dealt with some injury stuff last year. You have a young offensive line who knows if they can repeat what they did again. You have a defense that has some serious question marks on it at cornerback after losing Travarius Ward. At edge rusher, Melvin Ingram's still a free agent. Frank Clark has been up and down since he came to Kansas City. All of that together, how great is Patrick Mahomes really? We are going to get our answer. So I personally think, Kansas City, if they didn't have the money to do it, then whatever. And we could talk, the salary cap isn't real, but every now and then some moves get made and you're like, oh, dang, why'd they do that? And it's the money with these teams kicking the can down the road. And again, we look at, it's tough to win when you have a top 5 paid quarterback. I do believe that we've never seen a team win with a top 5 quarterback salary, win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's just very difficult to do. We could talk about, funging the cap all we want. It is possible, but, the chickens come home to roost at some point in time. So if Kansas City didn't have the money to sign Tyreek Hill back, well, then so be it. But, man, just on its face in a vacuum, this seems like a terrible decision by Kansas City, regardless of the draft picks that they get, because no matter who they draft, it's not going to be a one-of-one generational speed type player like Tyreek Hill that fit like a glove to Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense. I mean, do you think it's as much of a disaster for Kansas City as I do, or do you think I'm being a bit hyperbolic? Which, is fair enough. I've tendency
It's never
to do
happened
that.
before. There's a couple things to unpack about what you just said. First of all, Patrick Mahomes is elite. He's great. Okay,
I know that's what we know now.
So there's no debating that. Death tax is Patrick Mahomes. Okay, like it is, and he's shown that with a bad offense, with a bad offensive line. If the offensive line wasn't completely hurt in the Super Bowl, they probably would have beat Tampa Bay, or would have been a much closer game. Like,
I can't believe you're saying that about our Lord and Savior Tom Brady in the year 2022.
Okay. Well, you said it, not me. With the Patriots ruined everything for everybody about pretty much everything. Like all of the patterns and things. Well, you don't pay a quarterback this much because the Patriots Tom Brady looked like he was taking pay cuts when in fact they were just transitioning everything into guaranteed money. So instead of getting $40 million a year, he was getting $25 all guaranteed, and it was salary cap friendly. They don't pay anybody in New England, so it was easier to do it that way. Now, Peyton Manning, because my co-host Bo Brock on Locked On Cardinals, he brought to my attention, Peyton Manning is the only one going to Denver, where I think he got 3-year, $90 million, $60 million guaranteed or something like that, but it's not that much money. It's like, it's at what point are teams our owners and front office is going to understand that once you give somebody $40 million, you're not going to win a Super Bowl? Like, as you just mentioned, there's going to be a reckoning at some point, or there won't be, and teams are just going to hope you're going to make money hand over fist because you're going to have a star at quarterback, and it's not going to equate to wins. It's again, the problem is here that Tom Brady and the Patriots for the last 20 years ruined everything. So you have to throw out pretty much all the data from the last 15 years and say we have to start fresh and determine what's the best with our capologist in paying our players. So like with Tyreek Hill, I don't think it was a. If you get offered that, you get offered what, a first, 2 2s, and 2 4s, or whatever. Yeah. With how deep the wide receiver draft is this year, they could package those 2 first-round picks, move up to top 10, and take the best wide receiver off the board. Tyreek Hill, who? Like, there are many wide receivers.
No way. I don't care if they trade up and they get Garrett Wilson or Drake London or Chris Olave. I don't care who they get with those picks. It's not going to be Tyreek Hill. So, like, their wide receiver core could be Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, McCole Hardman, and Garrett Wilson. And I still think that they're a significantly worse offense than if they had Tyreek Hill. I guess that's how I see it. I understand you're saying they can replenish their roster. All the money concerns that they have can be fixed if they hit on drafted players because of how cheap and productive rookie contract players can be. So I do get that side of the argument, but I guess just color me skeptical that they can have any wide receiver in this draft or the next draft that they want. And I don't think that it puts them in a better position to win a Super Bowl than if they still had Tyreek Hill on their team, regardless of the money. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. We get to see, though. We get to watch it play out.
Let me say this, and I know we need to jump to the most impactful offseason move that's been made, which we're going to hit in just a minute here.
Yes.
This opens up the possibility for, say what you want about offseason stuff, Antonio Brown, cheaper wide receivers. Okay, so this isn't just they have to go through the draft.
DK Metcalf?
What? Yeah, like would you trade your 2 first-round picks for DK Metcalf this year? I think they would 100%.
I would do 1 and then like a third round.
First and a second, whatever. You have the ability now to overpay for a wide receiver that's still on his rookie scale deal because these are extra picks. And I'll tell you what, Patrick Mahomes will elevate any receiver that is brought in there. Okay, he will. And I know that it's probably not going to be Tyreek Hill or 1-for-1. I understand that. But the amount of money that he was just given, the amount of cheese that's now on that play, whatever. Enter your metaphor here that I just ruined.
Hungry.
This is going to benefit the Chiefs moving forward. They have not won. Like, he has shown, yes, he can have 200 receiving yards in a quarter, which we've seen. And he could also be a complete ghost. This isn't like peak Randy Moss. This isn't peak Antonio Brown. He has 3 for 25s in his arsenal, Tyreek Hill does, if he's schemed for. All they have to do is take away throwing the top off of the defense. Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that it can't be replaced, and the amount of picks that they got and the amount of money they don't have to spend, that's a win for the Chiefs. And just look for some veteran receivers wanting to go play there.
Yeah, I do expect that to happen. But obviously, it's all going to play out. We're going to be here to talk about it on the Locked On NFL podcast. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. I also want to tell you guys to make your second listen the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, hosted by Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. They're bringing you the draft from two different perspectives. Of course, they're breaking down all the prospects, but they're looking at it from the front office view as well. So you get the best of both worlds when it comes to draft coverage. Check out the Locked On NFL Draft podcast on whatever platform you do stream. It's available everywhere and always free.
Another fun Thursday, Locked On NFL edition. Follow him at Tic Tac Titans. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On NFL. For all of your Tennessee Titans information, Tyler does a fantastic job, even though he pops a vocal cord once in a while, talking about the Tennessee Titans Monday through Friday on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can check me out talking Cardinals Monday through Friday, free and available on all platforms. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers staying, Russell Wilson going.
Tom Brady back.
Those are just, Tom Brady back. Like, let's split this up, okay? What is the most impactful move, and which was the most fun storyline for us to follow in 2022? Let me go. I'll do storyline first because I just threw that at you, and I know
take it away.
Tyler can't look at his notes to the right of his screen right now. I tell him I'm Jazz and he's the Waltz. Okay, I kind of throw things right at you so you can get some sort of
it's art versus science.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an artiste. So the most fun storyline in 2022, Russell Wilson's boring, in my opinion. It's cool, good for Cody Rourke, locked on Broncos. It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And it should be Tom Brady because but like the baseline of Tom Brady is like, we've seen this for over 2 decades. We know he's going to throw 35 plus touchdowns. They're going to win 10 plus games, maybe 12 plus games with what's happened to Atlanta. And they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win a playoff game. They might make the Super Bowl. We've seen this all before. Aaron Rodgers is going to internally combust at some point this year. And I'm here for it because I don't wish ill will on anybody personally ever. You don't ever want anybody to get hurt. You don't want anything bad to ever happen to anybody. Professionally, I hope they win 4 games. Like, it's because he did this. He knew Devontae Adams wasn't going to be retained.
If he got that contract.
I don't want anything else in the piggy bank. I want it all. You're reaping what you sowed. You are the most overrated quarterback in NFL history, and you can be while still being a top 5 quarterback in NFL history. Because all you've done is disappoint when things matter. Yes, that's great with Jeff Janis coming out of the end zone on 4th down. Yes, Hail Marys are cool in the regular season and tying a playoff game, but not if you lose. You were a Dez Bryant incompletion away from nothingness. You haven't won an important NFL game in over a decade, yet you're lauded like you're the greatest thing to ever say downset hike. And I hope one of 2 things. I hope that he completely changes his tune and he becomes a true leader and they finish 9-8 and they make the playoffs. I hope that happens. I want to see the other side of Aaron Rodgers. I don't wish for failure, but I do either want to see him show that it's not all about the money or understand what happens when it is.
Yeah, a cheesehead can't change its holes, though. You know how that famous saying goes.
Is that a saying? So what do you think storyline-wise for you? The most
storyline-wise for me, the funnest thing for me to monitor going forward is going to be Baker Mayfield's situation because he obviously isn't coming back to Cleveland. There isn't really any logical place for him to go. He's basically got to be a backup, and with his bravado, his ego, it's very obvious. His commercials, everything, putting out that crybaby note. The Browns want to trade me. I'm sad. All of that stuff, man. He's just such a showman. and he's so vocal and he's so out there that no matter what happens with Baker Mayfield, I think it's going to be hilarious to watch and see where he goes and what goes down. As for the most impactful offseason addition so far, for me, it's crazy. We didn't even mention this when we were kind of like rattling through some of the, big moves that have happened. Deshaun Watson to Cleveland, to me, is the biggest one. I think, yeah, Cincinnati looked great last year, but how many times have we seen a team make a little run like Cincinnati made and then come back down to earth the very next year? I mean, look what happened in San Francisco when they went to the Super Bowl. The next year, I believe they were close to getting a top pick. So, at least a mid-round pick. They didn't make the playoffs. So to me, I think that the Bengals and the Ravens are both, feel good about them. They're going to be good teams. But I think that with the roster that Cleveland has, they add a couple more pieces in the draft. I am truly a Deshaun Watson believer. Now, you can leave the off-the-field stuff at the door with this conversation. We don't have time or the energy to go through that whole moral conundrum. But just talking about on-the-field football, I think Deshaun Watson is the biggest impact player. I think in that division, the Browns can immediately be the best team in that division and win it. Whereas I know like Russell Wilson would be a very good option here. He's not even my number 2, but I know he's a good option. But the AFC West is still as competitive as ever. There's no guarantee that Russell Wilson means that the Broncos' fate will be changed in the AFC West. But I think Deshaun Watson's addition does mean that the Browns standing in their division will be changed. So I think that Watson is actually the most impactful offseason move so far because of what he can do for the Browns within that division.
Keep it simple, silly pants. It's Tom Brady.
That is how it goes, right? I knew it. I have it written down as number 2. I knew it. I didn't
and the reason why, and we get so much flack on Twitter. Oh, people slurping Tom Brady. It's not slurp. Appreciate greatness, man.
He's the best quarterback to ever play.
You're going to miss him when he's gone, whether you love him or hate him. Okay. Like,
right.
What they did for the second year in a row is they ran it back. Now, they're not going to have everybody. Okay. They've lost a couple players in free agency, but they've got.
They'll get Julio Jones, though.
Yep. They'll get somebody who knows, like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are there. Gronk will come back. They got Leonard Fournette. They've got DeAnthony or Vaughn. What the
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah. Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yep.
They've got their offensive line like rinse and repeat. Tom Brady's going to throw 40 touchdowns. They're going to win 12 games, and they're going to win a playoff game. What Tom Brady did down 27-3 against the Rams was come back and tie it in a quarter and a half. And if Todd Bowles wasn't so bullish on running cover 0 on third downs, they could have made the Super Bowl. And for some reason, they let Cooper Kupp take the top off the defense for that massive game that ended up in a Mackay field goal, and the rest is Rams Super Bowl history. Tom Brady's the answer until he's not. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Tyler Rowland, Alex Clancy, we are Locked On NFL Thursday. Follow him at TikTok Titans. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Aaron Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insider analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's going to be a doozy for them. Eric Crocker and Ryan Tracy are two of the best in the business. We are very lucky to have them as part of the Locked On NFL family. For Tyler Rowland, I'm Alex Clancy. We'll talk to you next week.